What is it? Relieved. Yes, yes. Did you get all those? I forgot who was my secretary over here. Yes, thank you. I don't know how fast you can write. Probably faster than not as fast as we can talk. All right. So this is where we kind of tie on a bow on this little idea of operating system. Because if we operate outside the will of God, the love of God, the commands of God, we feel, how do we feel, Norm?
Happy, grateful, odd, and relieved.
No. Did I get the wrong side?
The other ones.
The other side. The dark side. I am your father, Norman. Helpless and angry. Yeah, when we live outside the will of God, we feel helpless, angry, frustrated. It's not what you were created for. It's not a burden that you were asked to bear. But if we accept Jesus Christ in the gift, if we repent and we return and we ask him to renew our minds so that we can be transformed back into the likeness for which we were created, we feel
Relieved, thankful, grateful, happy, alive.
hey, y'all are preaching this sermon. I'm just going to go home. I'll see you later. Right? Yeah, exactly. So this is why this idea of redirecting our thoughts and reclaiming the truth is so essential. And the reason I say this is last week we talked about tactics. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I am going to say one of the things that we do to counteract this, one of the things we do to have resiliency no matter what's going on around us in a tough mindset is this technique we call worming our way out of it. You witness the problem. Okay, there's a problem. You stop the problem. That's like stopping blood flow. Great. You redirect your thoughts, and then you maintain those thoughts. And this is all a secular idea that is taught to Navy SEALs. Now, we're going to spiritualize this like we did last week. I'm not going to go over everything, but what I am going to say is the hardest part of this cycle, in my experience, is the difference between interdiction and redirection. Especially if you're in the Word regularly, if you follow Jesus, you recognize a lie pretty quick. You recognize that there's something wrong. Just like on your computer, when that little flag shows up or that little gremlin face or you get the wheel of death that never goes away, you know something's wrong, right? And you can stop it pretty easily. It's called on-off, plug, unplug, right? It stopped. Now, how do you redirect? See, this is the hard part. Because society will tell you there's all these programs. All you got to do is get online and buy my course, and it's going to fix you. My pop psychology is the best thing ever going. My program that you can buy will fix you, but it's not that way. You need truth. Notice we're going to say here in a minute, you find truth to help you redirect. This is the only truth that I know with a capital T. The other truth is like, when you go to the certain restaurants and you get those nuggets and you're not really sure if there's chicken in it or not. Yeah, no, you need the real thing. You need the real truth, right? So this is where we're going to go, and this is how we're going to do it. So this difference between interdiction and redirection is the toughest, and here's why. Especially if you're a follower of Jesus and you know something is wrong and you've tried to stop it of your own free will, of your own power and might, you will fail. I've got some bad news for you. Our enemy is more persistent than our willpower. He never takes a break. You will fail. That's bad news. Good news is we've got a way around this. Stay tuned. But here's the problem. If you don't redirect, you know you're doing something wrong, and then you get the added burden of the guilt and shame because you know you're doing something wrong, but you just can't seem to stop it. And so you look like this guy. Now, here's the fascinating thing. Of all the things that we pile up on ourselves, of all the sin and the burden and the weight that we carry, Jesus looks at that, and you know what he didn't say? He goes, what a loser. Why are you living like that? You know what? If you will clean your act up, I will give my life for you. It's not what Jesus says. What Jesus says is, I see you. You know what? I want to give my life so that you don't have to carry that. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't wait for us to get our act together. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Let that sink in for just a second. Let the full weight of that come down and take off that load. Soak in that. This is why redirection is so important, because if you don't redirect your thoughts will redirect you, and it won't be good. The context that we looked at this morning is Paul. He's writing out of prison. Now, I don't know many people that would go, okay, God has called me to be the disciple to all the nations, to record all this wonderful stuff. I'm so glad I'm in prison. That's not right, right? Paul was called to be the apostle to us, to the Gentiles. Paul was called to write this down. He's thrown into prison, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, what an opportunity. How could he say that? Well, he says it because we're going to unpack a couple of things, and these are the scriptures that we read if you want to take note of these so you can study them later. Romans 12:2, Philippians 1:12 through 14. But this is the question that we need to ask ourselves this morning. What thoughts do I need to redirect? Because we all have them. Don't feel bad about that. If you clicked on that malware, if you had that thought that you didn't think was maybe the best, don't get angry with yourself. It means that you're human. These thoughts are attractive, they're shiny, they're bright, they're appealing. That's the enemy at work. And once you click them, you're on a path that you, if you don't redirect, is going to take you to a place you don't want to go. The beginning of the path is always attractive. It looks beautiful. This is the main road, but man, this looks even better at the start. But what we don't see is the finish. The finish of that path is not good. It's separation from God. God sees that. That's why God gives us commands and says, don't do these things. Not because he's trying to kill our joy, but because he's trying to preserve his love in us to walk the right way. What thoughts do I need to redirect? So we're going to unpack a couple things that are said here. There are two levels of redirection going on here. There's a giant one, strategic, and there's a very practical one for every day. The giant one is, do you know Christ? And I say that in many levels. One is, maybe you've never heard of him. Maybe you're here for the first time, and if you don't, I'd love to talk to you about that. Or maybe you know someone who doesn't. Bring them along. But the other way that's probably more applicable as I look across the room this morning is, has your love grown cold? How's your relationship? Is there distance between you and Christ where there didn't used to be? Is it not like it used to be, that first love? This is a time to reconnect, to redirect those thoughts, to draw on the power of Christ, because that's the only way we get by this thing. That's the high level. The low level is very practical, looking at opportunities like Paul in a prison. Now, if I'm supposed to spread this to the world, and I'm one guy, I can't be everywhere at once. Probably would be smart to write that down. But you know, I'm traveling so much and going to all these churches, I don't really have time for that. But you know what? When I'm in prison, I get paper. I can write all this down. What an opportunity. What if Paul had said, oh, I guess I'm in prison, I'm done. I can't do anything more to further the gospel. I'm just going to give up right here and just, kind of accept my lot in life. He doesn't do that. He redirects his thoughts and recognizes what an opportunity to write this down. And furthermore, it gets better. Who's he talking to in prison? Gentiles, specifically Roman guards. See, they thought Paul was the captive. They're actually the captive audience. They had to listen to Paul. You've seen how he writes run-on sentences. Can you imagine him talking all the time? The guy never stops, right? He's talking to Roman soldiers who probably are not Jesus followers at the start, but they are by the time he's done talking to them. What happens to a Roman soldier after they're done with their tour of duty at Jerusalem? I know this. They get shipped across the world. So Paul is writing this down so that we have the scripture. Paul is making apostles of Roman soldiers that are going to be shipped across the known world. Genius. That's what happens when you redirect your thoughts. Problems become opportunities. Prison becomes a platform, not a prison. The last thing I want to say about this transformation and renewal is we have to do some work. We have to make an effort to search out that antivirus. But once it's there, it just needs to run. And then we need to make an effort to not click on that malware that's bright and shiny. It's the oldest trick in the book. Think back to the original sin. There they were in the garden, perfectly aligned hardware, perfectly aligned software, and then this bright and shiny apple comes along. Anybody else thought about that? Yeah, it's the apple. It's always the apple. That's why I'm pretty sure that, no, I'm not going to say that. I'll get in trouble. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying is we have to make sure that we learn how to redirect these thoughts, because it's out there. It's going to catch you at some point. It's bright, shiny, and irresistible. It doesn't mean that you failed unless you continue down that path. That's the only failure, is you've given up on that, because Christ is not going to give up on you. So where do we go with this? Well, here's how you apply this. Very practical. You identify the lie. You replace it with truth, the real truth, not the meat substitute truth. You declare it daily until you believe it. Until you believe it. Did you hear me? This is how it goes. In one example, sorry for the eye test, but I wanted to fit it on one side. Let's say I'm living in a situation that says, this situation is hopeless. There is nothing I can do. I might as well give up. That's a lie. That's not the God that we serve. Not even death could stop this guy. Why do we think this situation is hopeless? So the truth that I found is the one that we read this morning. What has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. I can write. I can talk and make apostles of people who are going to be shipped around the world. What an opportunity. And then you do a redirect. This is where you delve into something that's going to remind you to remember this. And here's what I came up with. God is working in this situation that is hopeless. Things aren't falling apart. They're falling into place. He works all things together for good. And you write it down. So now, here's how we do this. This is your homework. You might want to write this down. There will be a test. Not by me, but when you get up there, yeah. All right, so the homework is this. If you know the lie that is holding you back, if you know the lie that has gotten you off course, write it down. I prefer a post-it note. Write it on a post-it note. If you don't know what lie has got you stuck and stymied, pray this prayer. God, show me the lie that I need to replace. Write it on a post-it note. Stick it on the mirror that you look at every day. I know you're thinking, Bill, that's sick. You're going to wake up every morning and feel like a loser because you're looking at the lie that's holding you back. Why would you focus on the thing that's holding you back? Because it doesn't stop there. Because the next thing that we do is we write down that lie, we stick it where we see it every day, and after that, we find a truth nugget. Did I mention this is the best source? I think I did. Yes. Find a truth nugget. Write it on a post-it note. Where does that post-it note go? Right over the lie. But it gets better. Then you write a redirect on a post-it note. Where does that redirect go? On top of the lie. So here's the thing. The lie is still there. It has never changed. It's persistent. It's always in your ear. You may not even recognize that it's there. The lie is still there staring you in the face, but now it's covered by truth. Now you have a redirection. That lie has no power over you anymore. You've run the antivirus software. You're back to where you're meant to be. Now the only other thing is to maintain it. You'll have to